Clara Frost was counting coins for flour when small fingers tugged her coat sleeve. She looked down to see a 7-year-old girl with tangled blonde hair and a dress that hadn't been washed in weeks. "Ma'am," the child said, "you're the widow lady, right?" "I'm Mrs. Frost, yes." "Mommy says widows understand about being alone." Clara knelt to the girl's eye level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Susie Harper." "Where's your mother, Susie?" "Home. She's sleeping, but she still smiles when people visit." Something cold settled in Clara's stomach. "Sleeping?" "For 3 weeks now. But she looks pretty in her Sunday dress." 3 weeks? Since the fire. Sheriff says Mommy had an accident, but she didn't wake up after. Clara looked around the general store, seeing other customers pretending not to listen. "Susie, who's taking care of you?" "I take care of myself. And I take care of Mommy." "Who's been feeding you?" "I eat what's in the pantry. Mommy taught me how to open jars." Clara stood up, her heart pounding. "Susie, I think I should come visit your mother." "Really?" "Nobody else wants to visit." "Where do you live?" "Miller's cabin, past the old creek bridge." "The one that burned down?" "Just the kitchen burned. Mommy's in the root cellar where it's cool." Clara felt a rise in her throat. "What do you mean in the root cellar?" "She sleeps better down there. Doesn't smell funny like she did upstairs." "Susie, how did your mother get to the root cellar?" "I helped her. Took me 2 whole days." Clara grabbed the child's hand. "Show me. Right now." They walked through town toward the creek, past houses where curtains twitched and neighbors whispered. Everyone knew about the Harper fire. Everyone knew Mary Harper had died. But nobody had checked on her 7-year-old daughter. "Susie, has anyone come see you since the fire?" "Sheriff Hawkins came once. Asked questions about Mommy." "What kind of questions?" "If she had papers hidden anywhere. If strange men came to visit." "Did strange men visit?" 2 men came the day before the fire. They made Mommy cry." "What do they want?" "Don't know. But Mommy hid her important box after they left." "What important box?" "The one with all the papers. She said it was for keeping bad people honest." They reached the burned cabin, half collapsed and blackened by smoke. The kitchen and front room were gone, but the back half still stood. Susie led Clara around to a storm cellar door hidden behind overgrown weeds. "She's down here," Susie said, pulling open the heavy wooden door. The smell hit Clara immediately. Not decay, but something else. Flowers and perfume, and underneath it all, something wrong. Clara followed Susie down stone steps into darkness. "I brought a lamp," Susie said, lighting a kerosene flame. Clara saw Mary Harper sitting in a wooden chair, dressed in her best blue Sunday dress. Her hair was brushed and pinned neat. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her lips were painted bright red in a smile that looked too wide, too perfect. "She looks peaceful, doesn't she?" Susie said. Clara backed toward the steps, fighting nausea. "Susie, your mother is dead." "I know that, but she still looks pretty." "How long has she been down here?" "Since I moved her, 3 weeks ago." "You moved her by yourself?" "Drag her down the steps. Then I dress her up nice and painted her smile." "Why did you paint her smile?" "Because she looked scared before. Now she looks happy." Clara forced herself to look closer at Mary's face. The red lipstick was applied by child hands, unsteady and too thick. But underneath the makeup, Mary's features were frozen in an expression of terror. "Susie, what happened the night of the fire?" "The bad men came back. They were yelling at Mommy." "What were they yelling about?" "The papers. They wanted Mommy's important box." "Did she give it to them?" "No. That's when the fire started." "The men started the fire?" "I think so. I was hiding in the root cellar." "You saw them start the fire?" "Saw one of them throw something at the kitchen window. Then everything got bright and hot." Clara knelt beside the dead woman, seeing now what the child's lipstick had hidden. Bruises around Mary's throat. Burns on her hands from trying to fight the flames. "Susie, your mother didn't die in the fire. She died after the fire. She was hurt by those men." "I know. That's why I made her smile pretty again." Clara looked at the 7-year-old who had spent 3 weeks caring for her murdered mother's body, dressing her up and painting her face to hide the violence of her death. "Where's the important box your mother hid?" "Under the floorboards upstairs. The part that didn't burn." "Show me." They climbed out of the root cellar, Clara's legs shaking. Susie led her to what remained of the cabin's back bedroom, pulling up a loose floorboard to reveal a metal box wrapped in oilcloth. "Mommy said if anything happened to her, I should give this to someone who would keep it safe." Clara opened the box, finding documents, photographs, and handwritten notes. Property deeds, tax records, letters threatening Mary to stop asking questions about missing land payments. All signed by Sheriff Hawkins. "Susie," Clara said slowly, "I think your mother was trying to help people." "Help them how?" "By proving Sheriff Hawkins was stealing from them." "Is that why the bad men hurt Mommy?" Clara looked at the evidence in her hands, then at the child who had been protecting both her mother's body and the truth about her murder. "Yes, sweetheart, that's exactly why." Clara spent the night in the burn cabin, sleeping on the floor beside Susie's makeshift bed. The child had been living in the back room for 3 weeks, surrounded by smoke-stained walls and memories of her murdered mother. Clara woke before dawn, studying Mary's evidence by candlelight. Property records showed the pattern clearly. Sheriff Hawkins had been seizing land for unpaid taxes, then selling it to mining companies for 10 times what families owed. Dozens of properties over 20 years. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in stolen wealth. Why was your mother collecting all this? Clara asked when Susie woke up. Mommy said people were losing their homes for no good reason. She was trying to help them? She was trying to stop the sheriff from stealing. Clara found letters Mary had written to territorial authorities, federal investigators, even congressmen back east, all of them documenting Hawkins' crimes in careful detail. Did your mother mail any of these letters? She was going to. Had them all ready. What stopped her? The bad men came first. Clara examined photographs Mary had taken secretly. Hawkins meeting with mining company executives. Bundles of cash changing hands. Forged documents being signed in his office. Your mother was very brave, Susie. She said somebody had to stand up to bullies. She was right. Clara found Mary's journal, reading entries that painted a picture of months of investigation. Mary had been methodical, patient, building an airtight case against the most powerful man in the county. The final entry was dated the day before the fire. Federal investigators arriving next week. Finally going to end this nightmare. Susie will grow up in a county where justice means something. Susie, your mother was about to expose Sheriff Hawkins to federal investigators. What does expose mean? Show everyone what a bad man he really is. Is that why the bad men hurt her? Yes, sweetheart. That's exactly why. Hoofbeats approached outside, multiple horses moving fast. Clara looked through the broken window, counting 6 riders surrounding the cabin. Sheriff Hawkins sat his horse in front, deputies flanking him with rifles drawn. Clara Frost. Hawkins shouted, "Come out here. We need to talk." Clara stepped onto what remained of the front porch, Susie hiding behind her skirts. "Sheriff, what are you doing at this burned-out place?" "Taking care of a child who's been abandoned." "Child's crazy. Talking to dead people." "Child's traumatized. She watched her mother get murdered." Hawkins dismounted, hand resting on his gun. "Mary Harper died in an accidental fire. Mary Harper was killed by your men. That's a serious accusation. It's a documented fact. You got proof of that claim?" Clara held up Mary's evidence box. "Pages of it." "What's in that box?" "Everything. Property seizures, forged documents, payoffs." "Where did you find it?" "Mary hid it before your men killed her." Hawkins stepped closer, his deputies spreading out to surround the cabin. "That box contains private county business. It contains evidence of 20 years of theft." "Hand it over." "No, I'm ordering you as sheriff of this county." "I don't recognize your authority." "Then I'll take it by force." Susie tugged on Clara's dress. "Why is he mad at us?" "Because we know his secrets, sweetheart. The same secrets Mommy knew. The same ones." Hawkins pulled his gun, pointing it at Clara. Last warning. Give me that box. Shoot a widow and a child in broad daylight? Even you're not that stupid. Accidents happen all the time out here. Like the accident that killed Mary. Mary Harper died in a fire. Mary Harper died fighting for justice. Clara looked at Susie, seeing the child's confusion and fear. This little girl had spent 3 weeks painting her dead mother's face, trying to make sense of violence and loss that no child should witness. Susie, why did you paint your mother's smile? So she wouldn't look scared anymore. She was scared when she died. Her face looked scared. I wanted her to look happy. Hawkins shifted uncomfortably. Child's making up stories. Child's telling the truth. Clara knelt beside Susie, understanding finally what the painted smile really meant. Your mother wasn't smiling when you found her, was she? No, she looked hurt and scared. But you wanted her to look peaceful. For when visitors came, didn't want them to see Mommy scared. So you painted her a smile to hide what really happened. Made her look pretty again. Clara stood up, facing Hawkins with new understanding. A 7-year-old child tried to give her murdered mother dignity in death, while you tried to cover up the crime. While you let that child live alone with her trauma for 3 weeks. While you pretended Mary died in an accident. Hawkins raised his gun higher. Enough talk. Hand over that evidence. The evidence goes to federal investigators. There are no federal investigators. There will be. Not if you disappear like Mary did. Clara pulled Susie closer, feeling the child tremble against her side. You killed Mary to stop her from exposing you. I didn't kill anyone. Your men did it on your orders. Prove it. Mary's evidence proves it. Dead women can't testify. But their documentation can. And their daughters can. Clara looked down at Susie, seeing not just a traumatized child, but a witness to murder. A little girl who had painted her mother's smile to hide the truth of her final moments. Susie saw your men start the fire. Child's crazy. Nobody will believe her. Federal investigators will believe documented evidence. And they'll believe a mother's love that transcends death. Hawkins cocked his gun, desperation replacing confidence. I'm taking that box and ending this right now. No, Clara said quietly. You're not. The confrontation hung in the air like smoke. 2 women protecting truth against power, justice against corruption, the living honoring the dead by refusing to let evil win. Hawkins' finger tightened on the trigger, just as riders crested the hill behind him. 6 men in dark suits, federal badges gleaming on their coats. Clara had sent word to the territorial marshal's office the night before, using Mary's carefully documented evidence. Sheriff Hawkins, the lead investigator, called out, Federal Marshal Thompson, lower your weapon. Hawkins spun toward the new arrivals, confusion replacing confidence. Marshal, this is county business. Murder and land theft are federal crimes. Nobody's been murdered. Mary Harper was murdered 3 weeks ago to prevent her from reporting your corruption. Clara held up the evidence box. Marshal Thompson, this contains 20 years of documented crimes. Property seizures, forged tax records, payoffs to county officials, and photographs of Sheriff Hawkins meeting with mining company executives. Hawkins backed toward his horse, gun still drawn. That woman's lying. She's just a crazy widow protecting a deranged child. The child witnessed your men start the fire that killed her mother. Children make up stories. Children tell the truth when adults create the lies. More riders appeared from 3 directions, surrounding the burned cabin. But these weren't deputies or federal marshals. These were women. Widows, mothers, farmers' wives, all carrying rifles and grim expressions. Margaretchen, Clara called to the first woman. My husband died in a suspicious barn fire after questioning his tax assessment, Margaret replied. Ruth Patterson. Lost our ranch to forge documents. Husband shot trying to stop the eviction. Susan Miller. 3 sons disappeared after they started asking questions about missing land payments. Hawkins stared at the circle of armed women closing around him. This is illegal assembly. This is justice, Marshal Thompson said. Mrs. Frost, present your evidence. Clara opened Mary's box, pulling out photographs, documents, letters. Mary Harper spent months documenting Shara Hawkins' crimes. Property seizures based on false tax claims. Sales to mining companies for 10 times the claimed debt amount. Threats, violence, and murder against anyone who opposed him, including federal investigators who tried to investigate previously. Marshal Thompson examined evidence while Hawkins' deputies slowly backed away from their boss. One by one, they holstered their weapons, unwilling to face down federal authorities and an armed community of angry mothers. Shara Hawkins, Thompson announced, "You're under arrest for murder, conspiracy, theft, and federal corruption charges. You can't prove any of this. Mary Harper already proved it. She just didn't live to see justice." Susie tugged on Clara's dress. "What's happening?" "The bad man is being arrested." "Sweetheart, will he hurt other mommies?" "No, never again." "What about my mommy?" Clara knelt beside the child, choosing her words carefully. "Your mommy can't wake up, Susie. She's dead." "I know that. But her love for you isn't dead. That stays forever. Even if I bury her properly? Especially then." Susie looked at the women surrounding them, at the federal marshals placing handcuffs on Hawkins, at the evidence box that contained her mother's final gift to the world. "Will you help me bury Mommy?" "We all will." Margaret Chin stepped forward. "Mary Harper died protecting our community. She deserves a proper funeral, with flowers and prayers and dignity, not hidden away like she was something shameful." Ruth Patterson wiped tears from her eyes. "My husband would want us to honor her sacrifice. All our dead would want that." Susan Miller raised her rifle toward the sky. For Mary Harper and all the mothers who fought back. The other women followed. 20 rifles pointed toward the clouds. They fired in unison, the sound echoing across the valley like thunder. Susie watched the women lower their weapons, understanding finally that her mother hadn't died alone and forgotten. She had died as part of something bigger, something that would protect other children from losing their families. "Clara?" Susie said quietly. "What is it, sweetheart? Will you be my new mommy?" Clara looked down at the 7-year-old who had spent 3 weeks caring for her dead mother, protecting evidence that would bring down a corrupt sheriff, painting smiles to hide the truth of violence and loss. "If you'll have me, will you teach me to be brave like Mommy? You're already braver than most adults I know. Will you help me remember her?" Every day. Marshal Thompson loaded Hawkins into a prison wagon while his deputies surrendered their badges to federal authority. The corrupt network that had terrorized the county for 2 decades crumbled in a single afternoon. 2 days later, they buried Mary Harper in the town cemetery, surrounded by flowers and dignity and the love of community that had finally found its voice. Susie didn't paint her mother's face this time. Mary's expression was peaceful, free from fear, knowing her daughter was safe and her sacrifice had meaning. Clara adopted Susie legally, giving the child a home filled with warmth instead of grief, hope instead of horror. They kept Mary's memory alive not through preserved bodies and painted smiles, but through stories of courage and justice. The burned cabin was torn down, replaced by a small memorial garden where wildflowers grew in memory of all the women who had died fighting corruption. Their names were carved in stone, their sacrifice honored, their voices finally heard. At night, when Susie had nightmares about fires and bad men, Clara held her close and told her stories about mothers who refused to let evil win, about little girls who grew up to protect other children, about communities that stood together when standing alone meant death. The mothers who fought back had won, and their daughters would carry that victory forward into a better world.